by saying congratulations on this album. I've had a chance to sit down and take a listen to it, and it's a stunning album, so congratulations.
Thanks very much. We're equally as pleased with it. It's been delayed because of the lockdown, but we're just so grateful to have got it out now. You know, we've been sitting on it for a while and bursting at the seams to get it out to the fans, and now that's happened. We're over the moon.
So, mate, I have to ask, where did your journey with Reef first start?
Well, as a fan, back when it all kicked off for them, and my connection with the current lineup of Reef is Jesse Wood, the guitar player. Now, Jesse and I were in a band together in the 90s when I was at college and he was a sort of West London musician. And our paths crossed then, and we worked together for a couple of years. And, you know, on our journeys to and from rehearsals, we'd listen to the new Reef album and we'd talk about what Reef were up to. You know, they're a band we looked up to. So Jesse joined Reef about 6 or 7 years ago. And I was over the moon for him, and I went and saw them play at a local gig when they were passing through town, and was blown away. You know, they're such a great band with such a great back catalogue. So it was a perfect gig for him, and it was wonderful to see him up there, and we kind of reconnected. And then forward to January 2020, just before everything kind of come to a standstill, I was in London. I'd gone to a party, and the next morning I was staying in a hotel. The next morning I went to breakfast. Lift doors open, and Jesse was standing there. And we'd not seen each other for a couple of years. And we sort of caught up, and he said, you know, the Dom, the original Reef drummer, who's amazing, had quit the band, was moving on, and they were trying out a few guys. Would I like to, you know, be involved in that? And of course, absolutely. So we left it there, and at that point Andy Taylor, who produced the album, had been writing with the band, and they were looking to go into the studio. Got to speak to him on the phone, which again blew me away. You know, Andy Taylor from Duran Duran, amazing, incredible musician, great back catalogue as well. And before I knew it, I was down in Somerset jamming with the guys, and it just clicked. It just clicked. We had 3 days in the studio, in the rehearsal room lined up, and we just blasted through the new material, and everything just made sense. It wasn't an effort. It wasn't kind of forcing anything. Everyone just did their thing, and we were all looking at each other, just buzzing on what we were hearing back, because we were recording it as we were going along, just demos in the studio. And yeah, we were all just like, is this actually happening? And then the following weekend we went into a studio in London to kind of, hopefully, the plan was to get 6 rhythm tracks down, you know, bass and drums that they could then work on with guitars, and we basically nailed the album, because it was all just flowing and happening and vibing, and everyone was buzzing off it, that we just captured it. And after that there was, you know, a few overdubs, a bit of vocals, a bit of guitar, and then it was just mixed. And then, like I say, we had to sit on it for a couple of years going, we've got this great record, people to hear it. So we finally came out. So after that, they invited me to sort of be part of the band, because it was such a wonderful experience as things evolved, and I jumped at it. You know, it was great. It's been brilliant.
You said that it just clicked when you guys all got together and started to work on it. How are you feeling inside, though, sitting down and playing with a band that you'd admired for so many years?
Well, I mean, I've been really lucky to have a few similar experiences, but, you know, imagine being a fan of this band, and you go down to Somerset, which is where they're based in the southwest of England, with their rehearsal room and lock-up and all that sort of thing sorted. You walk in, you know, great vibe immediately. And then you meet, you know, obviously Jack and Gary are the original members, so you meet these guys that you've sort of followed for years and years, walk into the studio, have a bit of a jam, and then you know, the first port of call is tackling some of their back catalogue. So, you know, Naked, Place Your Hands. And when I'd done that, it was like, job done. You know, we don't do anything else. I've had this wonderful day catching up with an old mate and playing some of these great tunes with a band that I really admired. But yeah, you know, but it just evolved from there. You know, I think because we're all of a similar age, so we've got similar references. You know, we're all fans of the classic rock and, you know, the things that influenced Reef before Reef happened, you know, that's all with part of our DNA. So to bring that into something new was, you know, everyone's on the same page. So it was just really straightforward and a lot of fun.
Now, I am very, very jealous that you're getting to work with Andy Taylor, because he is an artist that I've admired ever since I was a kid. So tell us a little bit about what it's been like working with Andy and what he's brought to this album as well.
Well, I think there was a bit of because I think the connection started with Gary going over to Ibiza to do some vocals on Andy's solo record. So that started the relationship. And again, there, I think because they were on, you know, a similar page, all just effortlessly evolved. You know, the dynamic was there straight away. So, you know, I think Gary was, you know, do you want to come and jam with the guys? You know, and they were sort of in a period of flux with members moving around, and up for trying new things. So he stepped into the fold, and this before my involvement. And you know, there was a couple of drummers, mates that were floating around, and you know, they were looking for the right chemistry, and that was when I stepped in. You know, when I stepped into the room, that seemed to work for everyone. Everyone felt like they'd found the right thing. But Andy was, I mean, he's an astonishing guitar player for a start. So that's one. But he's got massive ears, so he's listening to the room. When we were in the studio, what I loved was he didn't step in the way of anything. He just let it flow until we got to a point where he's like, yeah, that's the one. And, you know, he knew it, but he didn't, you know, I've worked in studios where, you know, your part is pulled apart and you know, the producer wants to hear a certain thing. Andy wanted that, but he allowed the process to naturally evolve to get there without sort of forcing anyone's hand. So it was, and I think through that, the vibe and personality of each song is allowed to blossom. So he was brilliant at kind of recognising that it was going in the right direction. Now and again he'd go, yeah, this isn't well, maybe we should try this, maybe we should try that. So there was steering the ship, but not taking full control kind of thing. And then also the other big impact that he had on the music and the album was going into the mix with James Leroy, and he knew what he wanted, and he knew James could get it. So they worked really hard on the mixes and getting it to sound as powerful as possible. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. And then we did some shows with him last year, and he was brilliant on stage. You know, really great with the audience. Again, amazing musician, amazing guitarist. And yeah, unfortunately, he's a busy man, so we moved on. But we've got wonderful Amy Newton, who's a friend of Jack and Gary and Jesse's. She stepped into the fold to kind of stand in where Andy left off, and she's doing a wonderful job, absolutely wonderful.
Awesome. So as a band, when you first got together to record, was there anything that you talked about, any goals or any ideas that you really wanted to have come across with this album?
There was a lot that was unsaid. I've got to be honest. You know, in my experience of recording, this was the least talked about record in terms of detail that I've experienced. It was all about the feel of it, and we knew when it felt right. You know, Gary's in. You know, we've just done this tour, and the most common thing I heard said in terms of compliments after the show is his voice just gets better and better. So that led the charge for us. You know, he is firing on all cylinders at the moment, and his voice has matured in such a wonderful way, and he's got this depth and rasp and power and excitement, and he can explore all sorts of different emotions with his voice at the moment, maybe more so than he could, you know, back in the day. So it was, and we're all, you know, musicians of a certain age, so we've been around the block a few times, so we didn't need it laid out to us, and we all knew when it felt right. So there wasn't a lot to be just dissected. You know, there was talks of feels and approaches and that thing, and then the song was just allowed to become its own thing. And I think because we are all experienced, we recognise when it felt right, and we just left it at that. We didn't overthink it.
With such an amazing album under your belt, how difficult was it to make that decision to not release it? I mean, I know the world was in a really weird place. I know for us here in Melbourne, we were locked down, I think, in the first year for 230 days of the year. But how difficult was it to sit on that album when you knew that it was such a great album?
Well, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think because we knew it was so great, it was worth waiting for to release. And because Reef are a great live band, it had to be around the opportunity to do gigs to present the album live. Because that was kind of what we tried to capture in the studio. So it made sense to hang on until we could get out and show the Reef's audience what this new album sounds like and where it came from, because it was all about performance. So I think to release it any earlier would have done a disservice to the album and maybe not have given us the opportunity to promote it in a way that we're able to at the moment. And it's been really well received, and because of that, live shows are coming in, as things are opening up. So the timing has felt right, but it has been incredibly frustrating because, for all the reasons everyone's been through, as a musician, the thing that brings you joy is getting together with other musicians, making a noise in front of other people, and that all stopped. So, we were incredibly frustrated, and we just had to sort of kind of sit on our hands until we had the opportunity to get it out there.
Definitely. And you're able to get out there and play now. But what are your plans for the rest of this year now? Are you going to tour for the rest of the year, or will you look at starting to work on another album some stage in there as well?
Well, diary's full up until, I think, September at the moment. We've got a bunch of festivals over the summer, which is always good fun. There's a Bryan Adams support in there as well. And then in September, we're super excited to be supporting the Black Crowes around the UK when they come over here.
Wow.
To promote their new album. Yeah. We were all buzzing when we heard that. That's, again, another band that we're all huge fans of, and that's obviously influenced us all. They should be great nights. So we've got a date in Dublin, I think Glasgow, Manchester, and London as well. So, yeah, super excited about those, and the festivals as well. Reef, as the new guy, I can sort of say this: Reef are a great festival band. Gary's such a strong frontman and connects with an audience, and he knows how to work an audience. And although the music is rock, it sort of translates above that. The message is so positive, and the vibe on stage is so positive. People that aren't necessarily fans have been drawn in, is what I've experienced in the last year.
Definitely. And you've got so many Australian fans here too that have been excited by this album. So I was wondering whether, to finish up, what would you like to say to all of those Australian fans out there that have been so eagerly waiting for this album for so long?
Well, thanks first and foremost for the support, for those that have bought the album and listened to the album and streamed the album and everything like that have just taken the time to check it out. Life's busy, so it's really appreciated that people check out the new music. And I really hope that we get to come over there and play it live for you, because the band's firing on all cylinders at the moment. So hopefully we'll get to share that with you.
I was definitely going to ask you that, whether there was a chance of an Australian tour in the future, but I thought I'd better not step on any toes and ask.
Well, there's nothing confirmed, but of course that's what we're working towards. So if we can make it happen, we'd be the first there, getting on the plane and getting over there and doing some gigs to the Australian fans. That'd be wonderful.
Awesome. Well, Luke, thank you so much for taking the time to be on our show tonight. The fans over here have lapped up all the singles that we've played off this album so far, so we cannot wait to see where your future goes with the band, and we cannot wait to see you guys back live here at some stage as well.
That's wonderful. Thanks for inviting us onto the show, Dave, and hopefully see you soon.